Hello, citizens of the multiverse, and welcome to Comics Insider, the show where we break down your favorite comics that came out this week and like to discuss what worked and what didn't. Now, today we're making a comeback with a book that I've been waiting for quite some time, and that's going to be Batman and the Outsiders, #1, by friend of the channel, Bryan Hill, and superstar artist Dexter. Bryan began to seed this story a little bit back in his Detective Comics run, where we actually did 2 motion comic reviews of 2 of those issues that you can find up there somewhere. But if you've never been to the channel before, welcome to Dark Knight Nation. Here we like to talk comics and break down, discuss, and analyze the stories, characters, and the worlds that these creators are building in order to figure out what works and what doesn't. So today we're going to take one of my favorite books that came out this week and something that I've been super excited for and just go at it. Make sure you stay to the end of the video because I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to walk away with a free digital copy of this book, because you know that we like to promote great creators, great content, and get their work out there. So make sure you guys stay tuned. And all of that is brought to you by my awesome sponsor, AJ's Comics in Colchester, Connecticut. But we'll talk a little bit about them later. For now, let's get into this book, because I know I've been waiting quite a while to be able to talk to you guys about this one. Now, because I'm the absolute worst, I shot the first part of this review discussion on Batman and the Outsiders, and it got clipped, and I don't quite understand how, so sorry for all the delay, but let's get into it and start this discussion. You will obviously notice me wearing a different shirt between this and the rest of the discussion, so sorry for any inconvenience, but let's get into it. Batman and the Outsiders issue 1 opens up with a father and a daughter driving along in a Los Angeles highway, and the car is abruptly stopped by an unknown man. And now this hulking, mysterious figure grabs both of them by the throat, starts to suck the life out of the father, and just tosses the daughter off of this elevated highway bridge down below onto this explosive tanker truck. Fortunately, she survives, and we end up cutting our way into Gotham City with the Outsiders team, or at least part of the Outsiders team. So in Gotham, Signal and Orphan are pinned down by gunfire, just kind of looking for an opening to get at their assailant, which is juxtaposed really nicely by Black Lightning's internal monologue, expressing his insecurities about becoming the leader of the team, especially when 2 of them are so young and impressionable. Now, after dealing with the ongoings of Detective Comics 983 through 987, The Outside, also written by Bryan Hill, the Signal is really resistant to adhere to Black Lightning's authority. And speaking of Black Lightning, his internal monologue is super important for framing the issue and the relationship between each of the team members. Jefferson feels the need to prove himself in order to gain their trust, but not only that, he's a little bit resentful of Batman for putting him in this position. And so, cue really badass scene of this issue. Black Lightning makes his big entrance blasting St. John with stellar art by Dexter. I really love the perspective that he frames this with. The camera's just kind of looking up at Black Lightning as he crashes down, blasting St. John, and it just looks super cinematic. I just love everything about the way that they kind of shot this scene. Not to mention, again, awesome art by Dexter, really nice colors by Veronica Gandini. Excellent job on the visuals throughout this book, but this scene in particular really captures me. And so, after taking out the villain, Black Lightning tries to reconcile with Duke, saying you should have waited for backup. But according to Duke, they don't wait in Gotham. And this conversation brings us to a really tense character dynamic between the 2. The Signal is super reluctant to taking on Black Lightning as a leader figure, just seeing as he seems to finally have come to grips with Batman being that for him, and introducing someone else just really messes with him emotionally. And again, not to mention, there is the fallout from that Detective Comics arc, The Outside, that's really having an impact on the way Duke Thomas is kind of interpreting everything around him, and we'll see that more later on in this issue. Sometime later, Jefferson meets with Bruce in a penthouse high up in Gotham to question his motives as to why Bruce wanted him to lead the team. Not only is he trying to gain the team's trust, but Bruce's trust as well. And that's something that's going to play out really centrally throughout this issue, and it seems like, again, throughout this arc, and maybe even the entire series. Jefferson just finds trust to be incredibly important, as most of us do. But without it, his collaboration with the team, with Batman, becomes totally inoperable. So I assume maybe down the line, we're going to be seeing some sort of betrayal, and that'll really add to this dynamic of the team, and I'm super down for it. Here, Bruce claims that his trust in Jefferson is displayed in the fact that they're actually having this conversation together. We can all kind of surmise that Bruce isn't a very trusting person, and so it's the little things that you kind of have to look for with him. We go back to the Batcave with our Cape Crusader as we learn that the murder victim of the issue's opening scene is Gabriel Ramos, a former captive test subject of the ARC program, which is kind of a product of the corporate greed manifested in the manufacture of metahumans. Realizing that Gabriel's daughter Sophia survived the attempted murder, Batman tasks the Outsiders with finding Sophia and bringing her back to Gotham while he follows up with the Markovian black market and Karma. It seems to me here that the storyline from Detective Comics is going to be able to tie in really nicely with what we're doing here. I'm not entirely sure if they're going to just be branching off into separate directions and then maybe interacting with one another later on, or if these are really just two sides to the same coin. But either way, it leaves way for a lot of really interesting story. Black Lightning opens up to the team about feeling like they're a team of outcasts, and that nothing is more important that they hold trust in one another, because otherwise nobody else is going to have their back. We cut back to Sophia with a bus ticket running away from the tragedy of her father's death when she's pulled into the shadows by a man with a mechatronic hand and held at gunpoint. We learn that her father's murderer was a man named Ishmael, supposedly under the employ of one Ra's al Ghul. As the issue closes, the mysterious man holds out his hand to Sophia, offering her help. And I guess you'll just have to read the book to check out that last page reveal and figure out who he was. Although that was the end of this issue, I do want to bring attention to two fairly important scenes in this issue that didn't coincide as much with where the linear plot was going, but again, important enough to discuss. There's this awesome scene with Black Lightning and Katana back in her apartment as he's looking for a way to reconcile everything that's going on with the team and look for a little bit of wisdom. It feels very much like a Japanese samurai flick, as Jefferson is just finding a way to beget a little bit of camaraderie and trust between the members of the team. And again, the art here is so strong. The way that Dexter Soy is capturing these shots just feels like a movie. Every single page of this issue felt like a movie, and I think that having that level of fluidity in a comic book is really, really powerful, because they're just still images, and it keeps the pace moving over the course of the narrative. Now, that scene was followed by one with Duke and Cassandra where they're on a motorcycle traveling towards wherever, as Duke begins to exhibit a little bit of post-traumatic stress from that story arc with the villain Karma from Detective 983 to 987. And it looks like we're going to be seeing a little bit more of the implications of that story arc with the character and how it's going to impact the way that he's going to interact with the rest of the team and maybe even the villains. It's going to be big in his discourse, and I like it personally because it adds a lot of weight to the conflict with Karma, and looking back makes that story all the more enjoyable and helps to make this one even more so as well. But we definitely get a sense of his fear, and he's really trying to cover all of that up by being angry and being resistant, and I'm honestly really excited to see how Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning, is going to be trying to help him with that and trying to help Duke grow from the situation. At the end of the day, I think this was a really solid first issue. I really love how the creative team is establishing the characters and the relationships super well. This book is going to be very character focused, and in my opinion, I think that's how all teen books should be. While story is incredibly important, and we do get quite a bit of interesting story kind of nuggets to play with and chew on in this issue, it is very much a great starting point for each character to grow and to evolve and to interact, and it'll create this awesome dynamic, I think, throughout the series if it continues to go in the direction that it has been. Speaking of story, Bryan gives us another potential plot line outside of what we're following, and it leaves room for those stories to kind of interact, and maybe they are two separate plot lines that'll come together and interact, or maybe again they are going to be two sides of the same coin and it's just one really layered central plot that we're going to be playing out between the team and what Batman's going to be investigating. And speaking of Batman, I do quite enjoy how we're grounding this in Batman's past, just like Bryan did in his Detective Comics arc, which again, I think you guys should definitely go check out. It is 100% worth the read. Awesome art as well. And speaking of art, Dexter Soy kills it on this book, and it gets me so excited to see him continue to draw Gotham and the Teen and Batman and all the other characters that we're going to be introduced to. But it's really evocative, and I think stylistically and tonally feels incredibly cinematic in that way, but also in the way that Dexter lines up the shots. The way that we are actually viewing this experience just feels like film, and it adds to the tone that both him and Bryan are trying to establish in every scene. So I really, really admire that. It's just so visually appealing, not to mention awesome layouts. There's one on the screen here where Black Lightning just becomes this big central focus after taking out, or while taking out St. John, and you have the other panels framing around him. It just adds this height to that moment and to the scene, and really allows the reader to immerse themselves. Awesome collaboration in that way between the writer and the artist, and you don't always see that in comics, so seeing that here is definitely a treat. Of course, you know, I'm going to 100% tell you guys to pull this book. It's the first issue in a story arc. It sets up what we're going to be doing with the characters and how they're going to be operating throughout the story that the creative team is crafting. I really enjoyed pretty much everything about this book. I'm super interested for issue 2, just because the Outsiders have always been something a little bit elusive in comics, and they get to play around with a really big cast of crazy characters. And you know, I obviously love my Batman as much as the next guy, but I'm also super interested to see these other characters get to shine, more specifically Black Lightning, and I'm really loving how Bryan seems to be nodding at his development as a character, because I don't think he's gotten a lot of limelight in recent years. So I'm all in for it. I'm going to give this issue an easy 9.2 out of 10. Really enjoyed it. Solid first issue start. And again, I think it just accomplishes everything it needs to do while simultaneously looking absolutely stunning because of the amazing art, and that cinematic quality I think just adds something to it. Definitely go check out this book. Thanks to the amazing folks down at AJ's Comics in Colchester, Connecticut, I'll be able to give you guys a free digital copy of Batman and the Outsiders #1 today. Now, please go make sure to show them some love. You can find the links to both their website and their Twitter in the description below. Go give them a follow. Awesome store. Now, what's so great about AJ's Comics? The owner and staff are absolutely incredible, always willing to help you out with any of your geeky needs. The owner, Pete, is a wealth of comic book knowledge and is ready and prepared to provide you with the best experience possible at the shop and give you the perfect reading recommendations. Second off, if you live far from an LCS, or maybe you're one of the incredible men and women who serve our country and live on a military base, you can subscribe to their mail-in subscription service. The beautiful thing is, it's all managed online. You don't have to worry about losing your pull list or forgetting to let the shop know what you want to start picking up. Another bonus is that if you wait for your pull list to accumulate to $100 or more for your order, the shipping's absolutely free no matter where you live in the United States, even if you live on a US military base internationally, and no matter what, your pull list gets you 10% off their entire selection throughout the store. Not just comic books, collectibles, trading cards, and so much more. Week in and week out, I find an excuse to go give this awesome shop my business. The comics are good, the people are good. What more can you ask for? Please go show them some love on Twitter at AJ's Comics, and if you happen to win, please send them a tweet saying thank you, because again, this is an awesome opportunity that I'm able to give you guys, and it's all because of them. So how do you win a free copy of Batman and the Outsiders #1 digitally? All you have to do is like this video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and answer the question of the day down below. This week, I'd like you to let me know, what outsider are you most excited to read about in this series? Is there one that hasn't been reintroduced yet that you're excited to see? Is there even a character that you want to see introduced to the team, or is it one of the folks that was introduced in this book? Either way, let me know down in the comments below. We can do this as long as this video can hit at least 10 likes in the first 3 days. So it's going to be super easy for you guys. One easy way to get that done is to share this video with your friends. Not only does it help support the channel and AJ's Comics, and it gives you a better chance to win some free comics and them. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you sticking around to the end of this video, and thank you so much for the support. If you want to keep in touch with us, please make sure to follow us down below on our Twitters and Instagram, like this video, subscribe down below to the channel for more content, and click that little bell so that you know when all of our videos go up. And again, I really appreciate you sticking around. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and this is going to be Dark Knight Nation signing out.